Have you ever wondered what happens to our camps when they die? Like, where do they go? Do they live on? Like, what happens when we delete them? We take so much time learning the tricks to building or spending time just making that camp perfect, learning how to decorate, playing with the lighting. We get really proud of our camps. They become kind of part of who we are in the game. That they're like an avatar for us, for especially for people who enjoy building. You know, we put in all this work. We invest our time, and it's a labor of love into creating these. And then at some point, we either lose that love for that camp or something happens to where it just goes away. So today I pose the question to you, is there a camp heaven? For me, I was a fan as a child of the Velveteen Rabbit. So even to this day, I can't look at a stuffed animal that's been loved by somebody without thinking that it has some kind of a soul, or that if it were to ever be left behind or scrapped, would it go to heaven or live on, at least in our hearts? Maybe that is where it lives. And for me, some of these camps are like that. Now, I've built over 200 camps. I think on YouTube I might have the most camp builds out of anybody, and that's not bragging. I love this very much. I love what I do. It's a hobby of mine. But even to this day, there are camps that still I think back on and fondly, right? So we're going to begin that journey, at least my journey, with camp number 10 here. We have the bamboo bungalow. So this is one I was really proud of. This one was done, oh God, it's been about 2 years now since I did this. This is one of the camps that are on this video that will be, that were like number one in the top 5. I was really proud of this one. The whole thing is made out of Kwanzaa paintings, right? So and they're not being supported by walls. They are the walls. There's no walls in between. When you think about it, this was 2 years ago, right? So nobody was, to my knowledge, really doing things like this, where they were making entire structures out of wall decor. If they were, it was very few and far between. With the new update, however, anybody's going to be able to do this. We'll be able to free place those paintings. We'll be able to make the walls that won't require, other than just making a basic blueprint, you're not going to have to do any real trickery to do it anymore, right? And although it's an absolutely gorgeous build, I've had it for 2 years, and I do have the video on this, and I do have the memories of this camp. So unfortunately for this camp, it's going to go away. The good in this is it did have a celebrated life. Again, it was pretty well received by the community. I'm very thankful that I was able to figure out how to build this camp. So, I pour one out for that one. Oh boy. So the Weekender. So this one wasn't as high up in the top 5. I want to say it got like number 3 or 4 when it came out. I saw this, and in all honesty, I think I got some idea from another builder. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Twisted Rose. She did a planter with this, and I saw it at a camp where she did the 2 chairs like face to face, and then put plants in it. And I'm like, why can't I just make a whole damn log cabin out of this thing? And so I did. This camp was a real pain to do. Now, I didn't have to go underground or anything, but you see those little windows? I had to merge a log, then float a series of logs to all get them all to be at the same level to create these windows. And then also merge them all by counting my clicks. I would write down how many clicks each one was so I could come back to it. It was a real pain. I thought this was a beautiful camp. I think it was pretty well received. I did some cool things, like you see this beer pong table. I thought that was really clever too. And, being on the water, it kind of made me feel like this would be a cabin somebody would go out for a weekend for, maybe do a little fishing, bring their buddies, right? And Unfortunately, with the roof, and it's kind of outdated now. So, and I think maybe down the road, maybe another item better will come out. So, all right. So this is the Roundabout rotunda. This is something that I recently built, actually. I did like this camp, but I didn't. Fun story, I didn't want to build this one. So what had happened was that I had done a build here a long time ago, another round build, and I kept getting a ton of, I need a tutorial, and I didn't used to do them back then. I used to get tutorial requests all the time. I'm like, well, here, I'll show you how to do the tricks, but I realized, some point that I just needed to start doing build tutorials. So anyways, I built this whole thing to do a tutorial for some people who'd been requesting it over the course of time. And although I didn't fall in love with this camp, I like how it came out. But I think the true love for this camp really came from the people who loved this camp enough that they wanted me to teach them how to do it. And I think for them that this camp means a lot. Now, the reason this camp is going is due to its size. In all honesty, with the new techniques, I'll be able to clip in closer to the dome, and I'll be able to save that budget for decor. So unfortunately, that will be the cause of this camp's demise. All right, so camp number 7 that I'm deleting. This is Skyforge. So I did this one very recently, actually. And I really actually like this one. I didn't think I was going to when it was done. So the reason this build came about is in an effort to avoid doing one that other people had done, which is kind of on the one side of the structure, but still utilizing that room. So like Hero Cunning's used that side. I think Jack Amaro's probably built over there. Both of them are really good builders. I want to do something a little different, unless it's like a real basic structure, like a slanted roof camp. Slanted roof camp where the slant is on the roof and it's basically a square box for those who are paying attention. Most camps, though, I usually just try and do my own thing because nobody wants to see retread camps out there. So, as I was building this, I fell more and more in love with it, and I really, really like this camp. But unfortunately, the masses did not. This one was not very well received. Now, I didn't get a lot of hate on it, but it was like a whole lot of, oh yeah, no, this is really nice. It's something my wife says to me all the time. Oh yeah, no, honey, that's great. No, yeah, you're amazing. So it didn't perform very well, probably like me. So unfortunately, this camp sees its end. So for the next camp, we have the Hightower hacienda. Now this has been around for a while, and I had deleted a lot of my other pylon camps. This one was like kind of the last bastion. So like in case somebody wanted to tour my camps and say, hey, I heard you do ones on pylons, I still had a showpiece there that I could give them for an example. I did some really clever stuff here, especially with the layout. I thought the layout came out really nice. It's got a unique design. The bathroom's in the middle, so it kind of separates out the whole house into smaller sectors. And then with the way the wall comes into that bathroom, it just divides like the shower between the other part of the house, like the toilet and the sink and stuff. And I thought that was a really cool use of space. So, I think that's probably the favorite part of this for me is the layout. I also really liked, and you'll see it in a minute, what I did with the hot tub. And some of the vines and lighting on the side, I think were like probably my favorite features of this camp. I really like this camp. I think it got like number 3 or 4 in the top 5. But unfortunately for this camp, I have another similar camp now. I did one that's over there in the, what is that? The Grafton Steel Mill. So I really don't have a need for this one anymore. I have a very similar styled one. And I might do another pylon camp in the future. So, oh man, this one breaks my heart. As the numbers go on, my heart breaks more because I have more of an attachment to them. So this here is the Granite Grotto. This breaks my heart because it never made the top 5. This is one of those that I never understood quite why it never made it, because I thought this was a beautiful camp. But sometimes, even as somebody I guess you would call an elite builder, we look at our camps and we're like, oh wow, this is really amazing. And maybe it was just my perception, right? I thought what I did in the bathroom here, where everything's kind of built into the rocks, and then you've got this really cool skylight that's going through. Like, I thought that was like super cool. You get to the bedroom and it just feels like a cave in there, right? So I was really bought into it, and this thing took me a ton of work. All of those rocks are floating from underground, as you'll see in a second. And a lot of my builds, if I start talking about how they're built from underground, this is what I'm talking about. So I merged the rocks together and then I floated them off tables to get them up there. And honestly, that is part of the reason why this camp is dying. It was unpopular, but I can do this better now with the new budget constraints, or not budget, but with the new techniques. I can just float them. I don't have to float off tables, so I won't need this camp anymore. The iron baobab. So I kind of got some inspiration for this from Payu, I haven't seen him build in a long time. The guy's probably, in my opinion, he might be the best technical builder in the game. He did a clean house camp out of doors, and I really have always liked these communist bunker doors, and they're round. So this camp was a ton of work because I didn't want any light gaps, but I wanted all the doors to be round. And I had to do each door manually with a free-placed wall. So everything you see there was free-placed. There's not like a magic blueprint where I got a round build out of it. I did all of that. And so that's why this one kind of breaks me up inside. Up top, in order to block that in, I had to use a series of rugs. So that was very trying to do. And I had to lift all of that up from underground in order for them to be perfectly even. I couldn't merge them into each other. As you know, with rugs, that doesn't work very well. But unfortunately, this camp, as beautiful as it is, I feel like it was ahead of its time. The other thing too, honestly, was a little bit of budget. Those vines to make that tree just took too much. So I didn't decorate it as well as I did. So it unfortunately is going to make its exit. So we move on to Seneca seclusion. So this one touches me because I didn't think this was going to be very successful. I had the idea to do these cantilever supports under there, and I thought that was really stunning. But this is just kind of otherwise kind of a run-of-the-mill clean build, other than the presentation from the outside, and then also on the other side of the cliff, which we'll see in a minute. I did the layout pretty interesting in here, where the way I divided it up, but I just didn't think it was going to blow up like it did, for the type of build. Don't get me wrong, it didn't get like 50,000 views, but it got 4,000 or 5,000, and the tutorial got another 4,000 or 5,000. So all in all, this thing got me like 10,000 views. So I was thrilled with that. And I do think it's a really cool location. I utilized both sides of that cliff, like I said. There's like a little lookout box that's over there, which we're going to see in a second. But the thing about a camp like this, unfortunately, especially in my collection of camps, I usually keep a running tally of like 48 to 50 camps at all times. I have a lot of builds like this, But yeah, this is what I was talking about, by the way. This is that it's got a kind of a lookout on the other side of the mountain that you can walk to. And the views from that side are great. So I utilized both sides of this mountain like that from this little rift, and I thought it was really pretty. And ultimately I'm a fan of how it came out, and not as much as everybody else seemed to be. But I'm going to end up doing another build here. So in order to make room for that, I don't need to have two camps at this location. So this camp now sings its swan song and moves on to its next destination. It will be missed, but not like this camp. Wow, the House of Cards. This one was a bear to do. Most people who watch my builds know I build 3 different ways. I build into stuff like pre-existing structures. I build stuff out of like, camp items, and I use like structural items, like unlike ways people normally do. This is one of those with the camp items. I realized that we had enough that we could do cards for walls and cards for roofs. So I did this whole thing. That poker chip doorway was very difficult to do because those poker chip stools don't sit on top of each other. That was, it was a lot. The whole build was a lot because not only were the cards walls, there's no walls holding these up, but the floors, then you have the roof, then you still have to put in a doorway, fit in glass walls, and still keep it this fun feature. So the entire build is being held up from underground through series of tables, series of billboards that I popped everything up at through the ground for, including the underpinnings. Even the underpinnings are cards. So you can kind of see that from here. There's 2 layers of roofs underground that are holding the whole thing up. With between those tables like that, those are holding up the rugs, and then the billboards are holding up the walls essentially. But the shape and the budget are what killed it. So it doesn't look like your traditional card house. So it wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. And then all of that budget used from underground, it just, we'll be able to do better now. Oh, so the aspiring spire. I had talked a long time. You can ask Silver Bunny. I'd always joked like, hey, I'm going to make a camp out of these lightning harvesters. Like, look, that they're so big, I could just make a whole camp out of it. And, but I knew it was such a project. So I kept putting it off. And finally I did it. Like the other camps, this one also had to be done from underground, which will be one of the reasons why it goes. There is another reason too, which I'm going to get into more. The layout for this was extremely difficult because I didn't want those roof pieces for the upper floor to stick out. So they are like very like specifically and intentionally placed through there. So a lot of free placing of roofs had to happen over there, but with no flickering, right? Because I'm not a real fan of flickering with roofs when I can help it. So you see there's no flickering. This was really hard to do. So you don't have any roofs really poking around it. And then also getting these posts to line up, especially that doorway, was really hard. But the imperfections, you can see, because I did all of that by hand, that there were little imperfections in it. And so that, between that and the budget, I think I can do better. I probably won't do a lightning harvester one again, though, sadly. So this will be the memory of that. And then that was where my top 10, but this is my personal favorite. This is the one that really breaks my heart. I would say if a elite builder has a flagship camp, I would say that this has become my flagship camp. The idea to come up with this through a base in-game item like this, I mean, people have done ultrasite camps, but I haven't seen anything like this before, and I really haven't seen anything quite like this after. Not only is it a use of these items, but it's a clean build, and there's no light gaps. Like this was my piece de la resistance. I'm super proud of this camp. This is the one that, like, if I like go peek out at Gurukon or go see like some of the Japanese builders or something, this is the one I'm leaving up for them to come look at. Like, this is like the one. The downsides to this camp are at night this thing glows obnoxiously. None of those ultrasite shards give off any light, so it's kind of a weird light, but during the day this camp's amazing. Putting the walls in, making it to where it had a bathroom, a bedroom, and a living space was very hard. I will say, regrettably, I didn't have a kitchen in there, which is very atypical for one of my builds. But with this camp, there's a big reason. There's really 2 big reasons I'm going to destroy this camp. The first one kind of leads into the second one. I'm rebuilding it. All of these are supported off of tables underground. So I'm going to be able to do this bigger and maybe get my kitchen in there. So that's the purpose of this, for me to remove that. So I kind of want your opinions. If there is a heaven for camps because they live on in our hearts, do these live on in the hearts of you? I know some of them live in my heart. I know that a lot of these probably brought some pretty cool responses from you guys, and I appreciate it. But moreover than my camps, I want you to think back on those camps that either you deleted along the way, you improved on the design, so they were just kind of left behind, but you loved them at some point, right? And so this weekend, especially this being the weekend where we are moving on from a lot of our camps, we're going on to a new camp update that will basically revolutionize the way we do things going forward. We're going to be building some really crazy, incredible things, right? And some of that came through because we were able to learn some of the tricks to building, or, we just came up with really fresh ideas. But that creativity lives on. A creativity to put something in a cave or do something that nobody's ever seen before that's really next level, right? So my hope is for these camps that they go to their camp heaven. We think about them. They're fishing up in heaven with God. And we think about them from time to time because even though that they're gone, like, their memories still live on. We still have them in our hearts. They were still part of our journey in building. Thank you for watching, for whoever does watch this. I really appreciate it. I hope you think about your camps. Special thanks to everybody who has supported me this whole time. You all stay blessed and have a blessed day.